This is the second live on problems not to fix, but to understand. And last week, it was all about separation anxiety and the stress responses. And I think this is something we all have experienced at one time or another, to one degree or another. It comes up time and time again in my coaching sessions when I'm talking to clients, and in conversations with colleagues. It is such a recurring topic. Now, this conversation and what I was trying to relay this week in the group was a better understanding of it. So this isn't going to solve any particular horse's problem. It's not supposed to. For that, it would need a much more in-depth one-to-one coaching session for better understanding of your horse's particular way they cope with this request of being separate. So I just want to say that to begin with. So whether you're listening to this while you're doing your jobs or somewhere familiar, or just sitting having a nice cup of tea, I'm joining you in that. As always, these are conversations. These are just notes for you to ponder with, sit with, think about. So last week, like I say, it was all about separation anxiety. And I want to start by saying that, yes, it is anxiety. They are anxious, our horses are anxious because they are separated. That part is real. That part is fact. But when we think about things in a slightly different way, that is where things begin to shift. And when we shift our thinking, we have a different sort of understanding. And what we do with that understanding is where the next steps come. Very quickly, separation anxiety becomes something we feel we need to fix, something to train out, something the horse should learn to cope with better. And the trouble is not the anxiety itself. The trouble is how fast we decide it shouldn't exist. Now, for a horse, separation is not neutral. It never has been. Safety lives in connection. Regulation lives in proximity, how they regulate their systems, how they regulate their states. And awareness of the environment and what's in the environment is shared through the herd. So when that connection breaks, the body responds, because the horse is a horse. Not because they're difficult, but because their nervous system is doing exactly what it evolved to do. In that sense, separation anxiety is not a flaw. In fact, to look at it through a positive lens, it is a sign of an intact system. At the same time, separation is a reality of domestic life. So our horses do live in a world where companions leave, they change yards, they may work individually, space is shared and then suddenly it isn't. And that is not going away anytime soon. So this is not about pretending separation doesn't exist or avoiding it forever. That would be unrealistic and very unhelpful. It is about how we help horses meet that reality without being constantly pushed over threshold and told to cope. In domestic settings, separation often happens quickly. A field mate is removed to go and do whatever that human and horse partnership want to do in that moment. One horse might go to work or go on a trail ride, or even go and have their feet trimmed, but they are removed from the shared space. And that means another is left behind. And the nervous system is expected to recognize that change instantly. Often it can't. And once anxiety is there, behaviour follows. The calling, it isn't rudeness. The excessive movement and pacing, which is not disobedience. The stiffening, the tightening, the ready to flight is not resistance. All of that is communication from a system trying to stay safe. So what many of us name as a problem to fix is actually something we need to understand. Now, some of the comments this week were really interesting. And one of them was that somebody brought up that quite often these horses are often not anxious in general. They function well in other areas. They're thoughtful and responsive and can be even calm. And the anxiety shows up in specific moments when that connection disappears faster than the body can adjust. One of the comments also said something that is worth underlining, and that what we call separation anxiety and what the horse experiences may be two different things. And I think this is a really important point. Often, the horse is not thinking, I can't cope alone. It is their body saying, I don't feel safe right now. And that distinction changes how we respond. If we see this as a behaviour to correct, we tend to push through it. We ask the horse to override instinct and manage anyway, get on with it. And sometimes they can, but sometimes they can't. And when they can't, the response gets louder or more rigid and potentially dangerous. So understanding invites a different approach. Instead of demanding the horse cope, we start working with them. We look at pace, at predictability, at how much separation the horse can handle. Not in theory, but in very practical, supportive ways. We stop asking the horse to cross threshold again and again and insist on that managing, and instead help them build capacity gradually. This allows them to make sense of what is occurring. So I guess this conversation, this topic, what we addressed last week and what I'm talking about here in this live, is an invitation about doing it differently. And importantly, it brings us into the picture too. Again, many of you shared how these moments affect you. That calling, that pacing, that unpredictability. It makes us feel insecure. It makes us brace. It gives us fear. And without meaning to, we add pressure to a horse that's already struggling. Now, these are the moments we need to stop and remember what the horse needs in order to feel safe. And in that moment, also what we need to. Again, I say this often about the power of the pause, but a pause can change the whole exchange in this moment. Not a dramatic pause. Sometimes it's just standing still for a moment, just take that extra breath, that extra beat, not asking again, just keeping it steady and letting our own bodies soften before doing anything else. I always go back to a phrase in these situations, and anyone that has joined me on a coaching session would have heard it probably more than once, and that is to be aware of their awareness. This is a moment we can stop and observe and remember in those moments when we feel like we're doing nothing, it's something, because it is an active choice that we have made, so therefore it can't be passive. It's an active choice to slow the moment down before the horse has to increase that voice, to get louder, to get more unpredictable, to get more shut into that moment. And something else that comes when talking about separation anxiety is trust, autonomy, and choice. And they also matter. Resilience doesn't come from being pushed through stress, pushed through anxiety, pushed through tension. It comes from being supported enough that our horses can create new pathways, allowing their nervous system to learn. And this is where the balance lives. Meeting the horse's need for safety while also meeting our needs as humans is a balance. Not choosing one over the other, but helping them meet in the middle somewhere so that they can collaborate. When we understand separation anxiety as natural behaviour within a domestic reality, the conversation softens. We stop fighting instinct and start building understanding. And from there, gentler strategies become possible because we have open minds, our horses have open minds, and we can start sharing that change in pathways together. And it should be done at a pace the horse can make sense of. The ripping apart of how they feel separation anxiety impacts their bodies needs to be softened and slowed. It needs to be done in a way that doesn't demand they cope, but helps them learn that they can. So I want to leave you with something to sit with this week. And that is when separation anxiety shows up, not when it's obvious, but just before that, where do you notice the first change? In your horse, of course, but also think about yourself and think about that space in between the two of you. Because that place is not a problem to solve. That place is information. Very often, that is the place where the real conversation begins between the two of you, particularly when we're looking to understand and support something that affects our horses, like separation anxiety, in the way that it does. So thank you for being here with me, and thank you for the care you bring to these conversations and the comments that you make. And thank you for the care that you give the horses who walk alongside you every day. So if this resonated with you in any way, please subscribe and share it with anybody else who also may be experiencing this in the moment or needs help with it. Understanding changes everything. So take care and bye for now.